Hey, it's Mike McCarthy from Remax Escarpment here with your roundup of the Hamilton residential real estate market. First of all, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And if you like it, if you please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media or wherever you watch it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out either where you're watching it or directly to me, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. Okay. I can't get into all the numbers here, so if you have any specific questions about anything, let me know and we'll dig into it for you. But we do the best we can to pull out what seems to be important over the past month or so. Okay, so a couple of changes I've made. I'll get to the second one later. The first one is we're going to retire the name, the monthly market minute, because it hasn't been a minute in, I don't know, probably forever. I'm not sure if it was ever a minute, but it's definitely not a minute now. So we're just going to call it the monthly market report. Revolutionary name, I know, very creative. Okay, so here we go. We'll get into, as we always do, the price. So we saw, after a dip into December, we saw the lowest price, end of month price in almost 2 years last month, bouncing back almost 5% to 720,000, which is also tying with September of 2022, the strongest end of month number in the last 6 months in Hamilton. So really interesting there. Thought that number might have been trending downwards with all of, with interest rate hikes and everything. Maybe that was finally settling in, but certainly not looking that way for the end of January. It is only 1 month, and we do typically see a bounce from December to January. On average, it's about 5.1%, so 4.8 is really kind of right in the middle. It does vary, kind of in between 0 and 10, but kind of a pretty typical bounce back, but not the downward shoot that some might have been expected, and I wouldn't have been totally surprised to see it continue a little bit either. So that's really interesting. What's next is days on market. So in this category, we saw the amount of time it took to sell decrease a little bit, but this comes to our second change. Now, days on market, median days on market is a very good proxy for how long it's taking a property to sell. So it's not unusual, but it is not the most accurate number. The actual most accurate number is cumulative days on market. So we're going to start using that number instead of days on market. So cumulative days on market just means, a property may have been listed more than once. So it could have been listed for a certain price, didn't sell after a month, and they just canceled that listing and relisted at a new number. That's just one example of what could, make the cumulative days on market different than the actual days on market. So we're just going to use that number moving forward. Like I said, this one was a very good proxy anyway, so it wasn't like we were way off. But we'll see. There's a significant difference here in January, where the cumulative days on market was up to 46, 47 days. And that's the board's only been tracking cumulative days for about 5 years. And this is the highest number we've seen in any month. So now this is definitely, so these are the houses that sold in January. So this means it's taken in a number that were listed in December, November, October, September. We've seen a few houses do a number of different listings at different prices. So we're capturing that cumulative number. Those were properties that were really kind of getting to grips with the new reality. Maybe they thought about selling the house back in March when the market was steaming hot, and by the time they got around to being able to list it, it had come down 20, 25%. And I think some people just didn't want to deal with that reality and had to see the hard way that, you can list it for that price, but it's not going to sell there anymore. So it'd be interesting to see where this number goes. From everything else I can see, it's probably going to go down for February, but we'll see. So anyways, that's the second change. Now, months on inventory, that did go down. So we're down below 3 months of inventory for the first time in the last 5 months. We haven't seen it down this low since August, where it was also 2.7. Okay, so this is a good sign that there's a decent amount of demand out there compared to the last few months. Okay, now like I say here, the buyer isn't back, but she's getting closer to home, and that is true. So If you've been watching this report for the last number of months, you've been seeing the same thing again. We had a record low number of sales for December, for November, for most of the last 6 or 8 months. We not only saw lower than typical sales, we saw the lowest number of sales in each of those months over the last 10 years, and by significant numbers, usually often almost as much as 40% below the normal number. January, not different. It's below what would be called, let's call it expected number of sales. So the average number of sales that occur in the Hamilton market in January, but it was at 80% of the expected sales, whereas the last 6 months were we're in the 60s and 70s, some in the very low 60s, 60% of expected sales. So this is the highest number we've seen since, I think, last May in terms of, let's call it, percentage of expected sales for the month. So this is a good indicator of demand not only not going away, as some expected, and we've seen, but it's coming back closer to more normal levels than we've seen over the last number of months since, the COVID craziness ended and the 8 consecutive Bank of Canada interest rate hikes were put into place. So that's a really, really good indicator for healthy demand in the market here in Hamilton. The number of new listings was almost doubled from December, but that's pretty typical from December to January. Up a little bit from a year before, where we're still in a super low inventory market. It's around the normal level of new listings we'd see in January. So we're not seeing an excessive number of new listings like some people were predicting, with definitely rising interest rates that some people may not, if they're people on variable rates, maybe they weren't able to afford their mortgage payments any longer. And people were, that's a logical conclusion, people predicting that, and it does not seem to be happening. Certainly not enough that it's changing what we might expect to see. The sales to new listings ratio for January was pretty strong compared to the last 7 or 8 months, where we saw the market kind of come back to normal. It was one of the top 2 or 3 months out of that period where finished at 53.7%, and we saw that number many times below 50. Both of those numbers are in a good balanced market, but to see it bounce back to that amount is, again, another indicator of we're hanging in strong. There's a healthy demand here. And then the last one we'll look at, as we usually do, is the number of total listings in the market. So it's the number, so just shy of 1,000, which is, let's say, lowish for January. We would normally see numbers in a little over 1,000. Obviously, there's variance, and in the COVID, the 2 full COVID years of the last 2 Januaries, and in January 2017, we saw those numbers below where we are right now. But other than that, all other Januaries, we had higher or just slightly higher numbers. So again, we're not seeing this flood of inventory like people have been predicting. Some people have been sitting around waiting for all sorts of deals to come to the market, and market crashing, and those guys have just kind of ended up like this guy. It's not there. The flood has not occurred, and that's good. It's a good thing. Certainly for bargain hunters, it's not a good thing, but in general, it's good to see the market get back to what seems to be a pretty predictable and not volatile situation. I'd still like to see a couple more months, like we're seeing here, to be certain that things are just kind of back to just a normal, pretty typical, boring, healthy, go up 5 to 10% a year type of market. But we are not crashing. There is no crash occurring. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it certainly doesn't look like that's happening. So yeah, we'll see. But we'll be back, as always, next month, let you know what happened in February. And look forward to doing it then. So until then, take care. Have yourself a great Friday. Great February. Have a good Friday this week too. And have a great February, and we'll see you early in March. Thanks for your time.